Hey guys, it's Sarah from Just My Typewriter, and I'm here today with another episode of Sarah started a project she thought would be a 2-day thing that turned into 2 weeks. In December of 2020, I was snowed into my tiny apartment with nothing to do but learn embroidery. Seemed like an odd choice at the time, but I learned a few stitches that I was really able to use to help fix this zipper on my portable case for my Wizard TrueType machine. The zipper had come loose from the bottom, but using my crafting supplies, I was able to sew it back together by hand and keep my typewriter safe and secure in its leather case. I recently picked up a 1950s Skywriter parts machine that came with an intact case, but a broken zipper. I'd been parting out the machine because it was beyond a repairable state, but the case itself just kind of sat around for a while. It was dirty, and the zipper definitely looked like it had been eaten through by something. I decided to try my hand at sewing in the new zipper the same way I had repaired my last case, but I also wanted to restore it more professionally. In my last fix, my stitches went all the way through to the inner lining. This time I wanted to try taking it apart first. What I found with this process is it's 10 times faster to take things apart than it is to put them back together. This case consists of 4 main parts. There's a flat bottom outside piece. On top of that is a cardboard insert wrapped in fabric. Then there's this top leather lid piece that has sides. On the inside of this piece is another internal cardboard inlay with a pocket. I first ripped out all the stitching of that zipper so I could easily remove this broken piece and replace it. I also took out the cardboard inserts so I could restitch this piece later and cover these stitches back up with that recovered insert panel. Once I removed the zipper, I measured it and ordered a replacement online. It's a longer length zipper, around 38 to 40 inches, so I ordered one off of Etsy. A bright red one, 'cause go bold or go home. While I waited for the new zipper, I considered recovering the internal panels. I knew I wanted to keep some of the original fabric, but realistically, the side panels of red had some tears, and the bottom cover had some serious staining. I decided to recover these with some scrap denim, which I thought might last a little bit longer over time. I used the cardboard insert to measure the bottom inside panel, and I ripped out the old red side paneling fabric and used that as a template to cut out the new denim strip for around the inside sides of the case. I realized I would have to stitch in the new side panels rather than just gluing them in like that bottom base insert. This meant I had the opportunity to switch out the colors of the original thread. This case started out with black stitching, but I kinda was set on making it a bit more colorful, so I bought some bright red embroidery floss. I kid you not, the shade number was 666 Atomic Red. This would be a sign of what was to come. Now, this project had to be hand-stitched for a few reasons. First of all, I was using the old stitch holes to loop in the new thread. I couldn't match up a traditional sewing machine right up to those old holes and avoid causing new rips in the leather of this case. I also had to stitch through multiple layers, including cardboard and vinyl, because this piece does have some vinyl trim. I decided to use my very poor embroidery skills to sew these pieces back together. I used the original holes in the case to match up my new fabric and used a thick embroidery needle with a 3-piece strain of floss. Basically, when I learned to embroider, I was told to separate my string, which is 6 strands, in half each time I threaded my needle, meaning that I would have 3 strands of string doubled up with each stitch. This gives you a thin stitch, which is kind of what I was going for here to not widen the original holes already made in this case. Once I threaded and lined up, I would start threading my needle from the inside of the case through the layers and come out on the exterior, line everything up, do a back stitch, and then move on to the next hole. I used a back stitch here, mostly because it's the only stitch I remember. The idea is you line up your needle to come up through the fabric, and once you're through at the top, you push your needle back in through the fabric behind your first hole to create a stitch. Once through, you guess where the front of your next stitch is going to be, push up through the fabric again, and once again go back in behind, meeting the front of your previous stitch. This is really great for line work, which is why I used it. I stitched in all of the top pieces with the new thread and stitched in the new side fabric. Then my zipper showed up. I started by attaching my zipper very carefully to the bottom exterior. Now, this was going to be covered by my cardboard insert, so I didn't worry about being too precise on the inside. I then lined up my top piece and bottom piece and stitched them together on that back hinge. Here's where I made my mistake. I tried my best to line them up and then proceeded to stitch in the top portion of the zipper. I was eyeballing it with an open zipper. Once I had the entire zipper in, I realized it was wobbly and wouldn't close. I had made a huge mistake, so I ripped out part of the top zipper and tried again. No dice. So I ripped out more of the top zipper. No luck. Then I removed the entire top zipper and back hinge to start again. Like my dad always says, that's the price of an education. In this scenario, that price was my time, patience, and a lot of red thread. I consulted my mom on how to move forward. Based on her suggestion, I relined up my back hinge and stitched that in place. I then lined up the zipper, closed this time, and ran a running stitch every few inches on the outside to keep it in place while I opened the zipper. Then I stitched in all the corners first. If they didn't fit right, nothing would work. I continuously tested by opening and closing the zipper. Once I had the corners in the right spot, I stitched the straight edges of my zipper. And voila, this time it actually worked. I then glued in the top insert panel and the bottom inset panel, covering up most of my messy stitching. The case went from this to this. Case restoration seems like a strange skill to have, but I found just this simple stitch to be really helpful now in multiple projects. Many cases and zippers don't last the test of time, but this case was still in really great shape and usable as long as you could replace that zipper. Now this case will have a whole new life housing somebody else's lightweight portable, zippered safely. If you're interested in more typewriter content, I have some more repair and restoration videos on this channel. I also have an Instagram at just.my.typewriter. I want to thank you all so much for joining me on this very sped up 2-week project, and I want to remind you, you're just my type writer.